What's up, Whisper Nation? We are back again, the Fantasy Whispers. I'm Johnny Game Time. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Game Time. And we are talking about those 5 burning questions that we've got heading into week 1. The preseason is now over. We're about to clear the last wave of final cuts. We've got some big questions that we want to answer and dive into for you, Whisper Nation, as we head into week 1. I can't believe it's already here, Travis. Let's hit that intro, baby.
Right here.
That's right. As Johnny said, we are going to be talking the 5 biggest questions, our 5 biggest questions heading into week 1 of the 2021 fantasy football season. But if you like that fresh fantasy football content, you like that daily grind that we're going to get on for you guys, and you want more of it, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and giving this and other videos a like on your way in. That being said, welcome in Whisper Nation. My name is Big Travie. You can find me on Twitter at Big Travie TFW. I'm joined by Johnny Game Time Hicks, who you can find on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. Johnny, what's going on, man? A lot of things working right now. Obviously, football's upon us. We've got our League of Record draft this weekend. You've got a fresh new haircut, fresh new beard trim. What else is going on in your life, man?
Well, obviously, I need to read my own Twitter name because that in the intro. So that was there's just so much going on, and this is the best time of the year. If it's not the best time of the year for you, you need to find a league that gets together, or at least you all jump on the same kind of screen together, and you could trash talk each other's picks, as well as just give each other a good time. Have a good time. This is the best time of the year. You all get together. It's like Christmas, Travis. I'm starting to get, like, my nights of sleep are starting to get shorter and shorter, and like I keep waking up in the middle of the night with like butterflies in my stomach, man. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is like Christmas in the middle of, or in the beginning of September, I should say, not middle of August. And that was a little bit of a brain fart, but I could not agree more. I'm super jacked on this. And, just a reminder to our listeners that, the final draft season push is upon us, and the Fantasy Whispers draft kit is officially here. It's been here and it's been updated this entire time. Our draft kit is fully loaded with premier projections and player rankings, consistency charts with over 3 years worth of data, cheat sheets, strength of schedule charts, and so much more. If you're drafting in the next few days, right before the season starts, the TFW draft kit is for you, and it's available for an industry low $15. So head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and get your draft kit today. Johnny, before we talk about the show, we've got to get into a little bit of news and notes from around the league. And as you said, we had that final round of cuts. We had preseason wrapping up. And so I just want to be able to talk a little bit about this and say the fantasy impact. So we'll start, the drill. We're going to work through some of these news and notes, and then you're just going to tell me what you think is the biggest impact for fantasy football for Whisper Nation.
You won't.
Want to say that we appreciate everybody coming in here and watching right now. Those, views are coming up right now. Just hit that like and subscribe on your way into the YouTube channel as we work through these news and notes. Johnny, first one on the docket, Marquis Brown, wide receiver of the Baltimore Ravens, will participate in practice this week, and the source is Jeff Zrebeck of The Athletic. Johnny, Marquis Brown dealing with some injury here. The whole Ravens staff dealing with injuries.
A personal question here. Have you drafted Marquis in a lot of drafts this year?
I have not. I have one share of Marquis, and I'll tell you what happened. I was drafting while bartending, and I had one auto pick while I was doing this draft. I shout out to the You Go and Learn Today League. They drafted in Nashville. I wasn't able to make it for this live draft this year with them. But I auto picked Marquis Brown in that, and I have tried to drop him almost every day. I have to try and figure out somebody who to get, but nobody on the waivers is enticing. I'm just going to pray for the upside with Marquis here.
There's upside potential, but man, I don't know exactly where to place him. He's one of those guys that, because of the Bateman injury as well, and when will Bateman come back and what will that effect have on him? I don't know, man. It's hard for me to draft him. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm 100% a little bit scared of Marquis Brown. Moving along, updating a previous report, Indianapolis Colts quarterback Carson Wentz is considered a close contact to someone who tested positive for COVID-19 and can return to practice in 5 days if he does not show any symptoms and test negative, according to a source. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported that.
The universe does not want Carson Wentz to succeed.
There's some...
That's just
Maybe
What
this is the adversity he needed to face to go ahead and become the next level of Carson Wentz that he needed. But
Hey,
I don't know if I'm
Let's
betting
hope.
on Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is not close to being traded at this time after multiple reports that we had that, Miami and Philly were going to be trading for him. And the Texans are prepared to keep him on their active roster and have him on the inactive list each week, according to sources. This was from Sports Talk 790, Aaron Wilson. Johnny, are you buying that this is going to be the case? Or are they going to look to maybe try and push him at the deadline? What do you think here?
I think that, teams are a little reluctant to give up as much draft capital as they're asking for right now with the whole situation going on. And so I do think that this is probably likely. We were talking about in our private chat how it would make sense for Houston to do this because they don't want to risk him getting injured and then not being able to trade him at all. So this is interesting. You also had Cam, who was reportedly talking with Houston, or Houston reached out to Cam Newton. So there's a lot still going on in Houston, and a lot of weird things and not a lot of answers. A lot of rumors, but not a lot of answers.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one. Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, who underwent offseason foot surgery, is expected to land on the PUP, which will sideline him for the first 6 weeks. He's officially on the PUP, just FYI. Being that the Saints have an early bye, placing Thomas on the PUP would sideline him for at least 5 games. Sources Adam Schefter on Twitter. Johnny, not really a huge surprise here. Nothing really to see there.
Nothing to see, folks.
Yeah, not that there was any doubt here, Johnny, but Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni has officially named Jalen Hurts today as the Philadelphia's starting QB. Sources Adam Schefter on Twitter.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. We've been saying this all.
I knew this was going to jack you up.
In here. Oh, yeah, I was already jacked, and then this is just, I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Obviously, the big headline is that Cam Newton was cut by the New England Patriots, and Mac Jones will be the Week 1 starter for only the second time in Patriots NFL history that a rookie will be starting opening day.
Hey, back then they didn't want him. Now he's hot. They all own him. That's how Mac Jones. Mac Jones.
Who?
That's how it's been. Mac Jones.
We've been talking about this. This could be a possibility, and here we are. So upgrades for Jacoby Myers, upgrades for Damian Harris, who will not be robbed of his rushing touchdowns now, likely from Cam Newton. Yeah, we like Jonnu Smith. We like all the possession receivers in this offense now. We love the running game, which we know New England is going to pound the rock. So a lot of good stuff here. I even like flyers on Ramondre Stevenson. Given his ability to catch and run, he could be a guy that, should something happen to Harris, easily after the Sony Michelle trade, you could have a all-around back in that offense.
And don't forget about James White, because James White now with Mac Jones, he does tend to go through his progressions. He's very good at that, and he checked down many a times in college. So actually uptick to a guy like James White.
Absolutely. All right. The last piece of news here is 49ers quarterback Trey Lance has a small chip in his finger and is expected to miss about a week, per head coach Kyle Shanahan. This is from
Not
Adam
a computer
Schefter
chip
on Twitter.
Not a computer chip.
Yeah. It was in his vaccine, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
No, but so what do we think here of Trey Lance? Obviously, this one is just, to me, this just solidifies we're going Fields over Lance in most leagues for the rookie quarterback with the most upside. And I think Lance is probably going to be waiting. They're probably going to keep him on wraps for at least till their bye.
I believe that's true as well. I think because of what we've seen in the preseason, I do think that Lance is much more going to be like hyped for next year. Not to say that I don't think he's going to come in and he can't have good fantasy games. I do. I just think they'll be up and down because of things that we've seen in preseason. He's had ups and downs, but there's some good highs and there's also some low lows. So I do think as he continues to develop, I think next year is when the hype is going to get real for Lance. Real.
Johnny, of those headlines that we talked about, which one has the biggest effect on fantasy football for, as we head into week 1?
I think it's got to be the Mac Jones. I think that now that we have this answer, there's no question or debate as to where they're going to go. I like what we saw in Mac Jones, and I think this benefits their offense the most and all the skill positions. We're bringing up these guys that now we were shutting down before, James White, and we weren't too excited about their ceiling. And now this opens up that ceiling a little bit more for them. as well as Damian gets like probably one of the biggest boosts of all, because we know from the start that he's getting those goal line carries. So let's go.
Let's go, and let's tell Whisper Nation about Manscaped. Fantasy football draft season is officially about over, which means it's happening. It's time for you to put the PP back in PPR League with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming just launched the new Performance 4.0 package. Don't neglect your balls like the Packers front office has been neglecting Aaron Rodgers. Join the two men. Join us, the and the 2 million other men worldwide who trust Manscaped, and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code TFWMAN. That will help you tame the Troy Polamalu in your pants. Once again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code TFWMAN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code TFWMAN at manscaped.com. TFWMAN. Johnny, let's get into these 5 big burning questions we have here. I'm so stoked. I mean, we just wanted to say, look, even after all the saturated news and notes that we've gotten over the offseason, even after the injuries in the preseason, there are still some burning questions we even have about what's going on in fantasy football for the 2021 season. So as we head into week 1, we came up with these burning questions. And our first one, Johnny, is the impact of this Sony Michelle trade on the Rams backfield. So quickly, your initial reaction to this trade, and then I'll get into some of the stuff I started to dig up with this question.
My initial reaction to the trade was I still believe that Henderson was going to have the lead dog running back in this, the 1A, and I was pretty confident that he was going to be the projected starter. But after that, and seeing other things that are coming out, Travis, I'm starting to feel like this is definitely a running backfield that you're going to want to try and target at least a piece just to take that gamble, because now Henderson's value is so late, going much later than it was before. And I do think that Sony becomes an interesting dart throw because of the fact we've heard that he could potentially be the starter there. We do know he's productive when he does play. So I am excited to dive into this question with you a little bit further.
Yeah, so I would agree that was kind of my initial reaction too. And then we got to talking on Monday, and I think that's really why I put this question in the show, because on our mock draft Monday, it was this question of like Sony versus Henderson. And I actually think the answer is yes, like draft both of them, because in my opinion, we just look at all the things that are possible for this offense. Let's look at the opportunity with the offense itself first. Johnny, Rams ranked top 10 in rushing attempts in 3 of their past 4 seasons. They've also been top 7 in rushing DVOA in 3 of the past 4 seasons. We also look at the Rams offensive line last year, and it became a top 3 unit again. And we saw Akers really, produce down the stretch. So let's profile the 2 backs we're talking about here, because what fails to get mentioned a lot is the fact that Malcolm Brown is now gone, and he's even gone from the Dolphins. He retired, but he's actually gone out of this offense, which it was a 3-headed committee at some times last year. Henderson, though, if we just look at Daryl Henderson, he had an 83 pass blocking grade last year. Jeez. From PFF. Last week, and last year, Daryl Henderson was the 3rd best running back in pass blocking grade per Pro Football Focus. 3rd best of all running backs. I think that's a remarkable grade to have as Daryl Henderson, because that's going to keep him on the field as their starter, in my opinion. His receiving grade was 67.9. So not a guy we know for receiving, but a guy that scored within the top 50 at the position in that grade. After averaging 21 catches per season at Memphis, Henderson caught 16 balls in 11 games that he started last year. That's a little, and I mean started as was on the field for a lot of snaps, a little over 1 per game. So nothing to write home about with the receiving, but I do believe the pass blocking gives him a little bit of an edge over Sony Michelle. Henderson's college tape showed his ability to catch, though, and make plays in the passing game. And I remember when the Rams took him in 2019, they were jacked about his upside in that aspect of his game, even saying some light Kamara types or comps to him during that time. We look at Cam Akers missed or was limited in 4 of his first 8 games. During those games, and with Malcolm Brown still in the field, we saw Henderson average 17.5 touches, over 80 all-purpose yards, 4.6 yards per carry. He scored 3 times, but the big one was that he averaged 12 PPR points in weeks 3 through 7. He was also better at converting at the goal line than Cam Akers was last year. And so you like that as well as an ability to score a touchdown. If we look at Sony Michelle, obviously the sample size has not been great given his injury history. Last year, his pass blocking grade in limited action was 73.2. His receiving grade better than that of Daryl Henderson with 82.6, but still not used a lot. After averaging 16 catches per season at Georgia, in his 28 games in the NFL, Sony Michelle has just 26 receptions total. So it's not like he is out there in a huge sample size tearing it up. And finally, I just want to talk about what McVay has said, regarding Henderson after this trade. So this is a quote, and I know Coach Speak can get out there, but I tend to believe this one. Daryl is still going to have a really big role, Sean McVay said. Doesn't really change the outlook for him, and then we'll see how quickly we can get Sony up to speed. And I think this is relatively true because they did use Malcolm Brown as a third piece, as a complementary piece. And I do think they would use somebody like Sony Michelle as a complementary piece for Daryl Henderson. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you should invest in Sony Michelle because should anything happen to Henderson, who hasn't been very healthy in his own right, Sony Michelle would step into a very large role, and, vice versa. Should anything happen to Sony, I think, Henderson's upside's even more. But both are being priced very well, Johnny, for an offense that we've seen produce huge numbers at the running back position.
The thing that I like about Sony is, sure, that New England didn't use him as a pass catcher, which was a little bit weird because he was so good at it in college. So I do expect Sean McVay to use him much more in that role as he goes there. It did make sense to me when, like heading back to like my first reaction, that he was going to take that Malcolm Brown role for them. But it is, once again, with Shefty coming out and saying that he could potentially be the lead running back there. And we know how much Matthew Stafford likes to check down. He's always done that to running backs. And then you also look at the fact that, Sean McVay seems to, when he doesn't like a player, he tends to find reasons why he shouldn't play him. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't 100% like Henderson, but if you look at his track record, right, he's kind of proven that he hasn't really loved what he's seen from Henderson by drafting Akers and bringing in some other guys to take his role. So there is a lot of cause for concern for me for Henderson. I think he could start the season off fairly hot. And then, as Sony picks up more and more of the playbook, I could see Sony end up, that's so weird to say. And I don't like saying that, saying Sony is potentially going to come in and take this over. And then you could ride him to the playoffs maybe. But it's a sticky situation now for sure.
I actually think that it's not as sticky. I'm just going to stand firm in this. I do believe that it was a depth piece that they picked up Sony Michelle. You look at Mr. Miyagi saying he looked great in preseason, but the Rams got him super cheap. Yep, was a super cheap deal. Didn't have to send a lot over to get him. Doesn't make me think that they're bringing him in to be the starter. I think they still believe in Henderson and they want him to be the lead back, and they're going to use Sony Michelle in the complementary role. That doesn't mean that I'm not out there drafting Sony Michelle. In my last 2 drafts, I definitely stashed him on the bench because, as Johnny said, should anything happen, he could easily be the lead back, and in this offense could lead you home. Mr. Miyagi says Trey Sermon or Sony. I'd go Sermon. I think I agree with that as well. I think I'd be taking Sermon ahead of Sony as well. So, Johnny, for our second question, we wanted to talk about that Broncos passing attack because Teddy Bridgewater has been named the starter. So, Johnny, how do we feel about the Broncos passing attack heading into week 1 with Teddy B as the starter?
I wanted to talk about this because the initial reaction when it first happened was like, oh man, the upside is now capped because Teddy B is now under center and we don't have the big cannon Drew Lock arm now under center who's willing to take those gambling risks. So when it first came out, once again, the first initial reaction was, well, this is kind of a downgrade to Sutton. This is a downgrade to Hamler. And, Jerry Jeudy, we liked more because he's playing that slot role when it's like a 3 wide receiver set. He is also on the outside when playing a 2 wide receiver set. And he's looked phenomenal during preseason. And that's what you like about Teddy B is like he's willing to wait for his progressions and go with the safest play. And so that was why it was initially a downgrade to Sutton. However, as I continue to watch his tape and look at the preseason and what's going on, I do think that based on what I've seen from Sutton, another injury or another part of Sutton's concern, right, was the injury coming back. He reports from beat reporters and out of camp was that he still isn't 100%, confident in that knee, cutting on that knee. And what we saw was in that preseason, he was making some of those cuts and he looked good. Now, I'm not saying this now puts Sutton back on the board for a super high upside wide receiver 1. I don't think it's quite there. I do think he'll be pretty good with Teddy B, because we have to remember Teddy Bridgewater produced 3 top 30 wide receivers last year for Carolina. And I do think that he could get somewhat close to that again this season, Travis. You looking at Sutton, I don't think his ceiling is quite there, but I do think I want to remind our listeners, that last year Robbie Anderson, playing a very similar role to Sutton, was still able to garner 25% market share in from Teddy Bridgewater, as well as Robbie Anderson finished as the wide receiver 23 in a half-point PPR league. So there is still solid wide receiver 2 production there for Sutton. I think the same could be said for Jerry Jeudy, especially when you're looking at what he's got. And now, teams could possibly play more man now that Sutton's back. And I just want to throw this out from Matt Harmon's reception perception. He said this: Jerry Jeudy posted a 75% success rate versus man coverage, which was 3rd best among rookies last year and falls at the 87th percentile in all-time reception perception history. So Jerry Jeudy already proving that he can handle one-on-ones. He should get more one-on-one coverage this year. He did have a lot of drops last year. He was one of the league leaders in drops, Travis. So I do think this is going to be a big year for Jerry Jeudy. I want to remind listeners as well, DJ Moore last year finished as the wide receiver 21 in half-point PPR league. So definitely some good, solid upside there for Jerry Jeudy. And then I do want to touch on Noah Fant, because a lot of people were heavy on Noah Fant as a potential sleeper, and especially with Teddy B coming in. And my problem with this is that, sure, Teddy B is a lot more consistent. He's a lot more accurate than Drew Lock, but he's got more weapons now than Noah Fant had last year, and as well as 2 years ago when he didn't have Teddy B as his quarterback. It was basically him and Sutton. And so I think that's why he garnered such a big target market share. And in history, Travis, Teddy Bridgewater hasn't really thrown to the tight end a whole lot. He's really utilized his wide receivers, felt comfortable with his wide receivers.
And to be fair to Noah Fant, he hasn't really had a super athletic tight end either to target. Sure. But I do love your point about the weapons around Noah Fant. I mean, there are so many options around him to pass the ball to. Initially when you were making this argument, and you've made it before, a couple days ago, we were talking off air, I've heard in the industry that the narrative is, well, Denver's defense much better than Carolina's last year, which could mean that they will not pass the ball as much. But when I looked at the numbers last year, and this Denver defense wasn't terrible last year, it'll be improved from last year, I imagine so, but it wasn't that bad. We had a situation where actually Carolina averaged fewer attempts per game and attempts on average than Denver. And the problem with Denver was the dumpster fire at quarterback, where they didn't complete a lot of these passes. So now you've got Teddy B, who has a high completion percentage over his career. He's a very accurate quarterback. He's a safe quarterback. I think this is an absolute wheels up for a guy in Jerry Jeudy. And it's an absolute, look, the ADP is just so good for Sutton. You have to take him here, because if there is a chance that Jeudy isn't the alpha, or that Teddy can sustain like he did in Carolina, these multiple wide receivers, then you've got to invest in that, especially with a defense. We could say the reverse. If the defense is going to be getting them the ball back a lot, this has an opportunity for more opportunities in the game. I'm with you on this. I wasn't initially on Sutton, and I thought that this would kill Sutton's value, but I think that Sutton's so good at playing wide receiver, and we've seen him be so valuable even with other quarterbacks and Brock Osweiler and just kind of dumpster fires at quarterback. So for me, I think Sutton is actually a guy that I want to invest in, as well as Jerry Jeudy, and I think this offense is something to be targeting.
I just want to make 2 final notes. One is that Noah is also dealing with a lower leg injury, and so he will miss a couple, or is expected to miss a couple of games into the regular season. So that also doesn't bode well for him. And then I do want to mention, I don't want to deep dive into him, but KJ Hamler, he will most likely miss the Vic Fangio said you'll most likely miss week 1 against the Rams. But I would bet that within week 2 or week 3, we will be talking and writing about KJ Hamler as a waiver wire pickup, because there is a lot of upside potential there with KJ Hamler because of Teddy B.
Absolutely great point. And another good point is, if you continue to love this daily fantasy football content, please hit that like button on your way in and hit us with the subscribe on the YouTube channel if you can. It helps us grow the channel and continue to put this content out for you each and every single day. So please hit the like, hit the subscribe, and help a brother out, or a couple brothers out.
We're trying to get to 2K before the start of the season. We're really close.
Yeah, like help us out. Let's smash that before we get there. We got a little bit over a week, or just under a week.
Over. All
right.
8 days.
Moving
8
on.
days.
Our third question, Johnny, and this is a big one because this is an offense that we believe is really good in Tampa Bay. But how do we project the Tampa Bay wide receivers now that all 3 are fully healthy? We've been talking about them a lot over the offseason, but we haven't really dug into why we think that all 3 are valuable, why we think this offense is one you should invest in, and what that means for Tom Brady. So I just want to take a look.
Plenty of meat on that bone, Travis.
Oh, absolutely. We hear the argument all the time that there's too many mouths to feed. This might be the perfect amount of mouths to feed for, the GOAT in Tom Brady. We look at what they were able to do. So Antonio Brown came on late last year, but what we saw is that weeks 9 through 17 last year, all 3 of those big 3 played 8 games. And so, yes, you say a small sample size, but I actually think this is the perfect sample size to look at for Tampa Bay, because what we saw was Brady finally get comfortable in the offense, all the wide receivers playing together healthy. And what did we see, Johnny? Well, we saw that, Godwin really wasn't the compiler that we thought he was going to be coming into last year. Everybody was comparing him to the Edelman role that Brady had in the past. If we look at AB and Evans, they tied for the target lead with 162 in those 8 games. We look at Evans leading in touchdowns and average depth of target, so we know he's that big play threat in this offense. Godwin led in yards per target with 10.39, so he's very effective in getting down the field and could easily be a compiler on most other teams. But you're playing with a guy in Antonio Brown who is an extremely crisp route runner, who has the chemistry down pat with Tom Brady for whatever reason. Brady loves the guy, wants him to stay in his house, wants to see him resurrect his career. If you look at the touchdown breakdown, obviously Mike Evans led with 6, but then Godwin got 5. Also, Antonio Brown got 5. We look at the big plays, receptions over 40-plus yards. Godwin, 4 of those. Antonio Brown only 1. So there's a big mix of just the fact that all 3 of these guys are good and they play their role extremely well. And Brady's so good at distributing the ball that they get it to every single one of them. If we look at what happened during that span, Evans was the wide receiver 11 in PPR. Godwin was the wide receiver 17, and AB was the wide receiver 21. All 3 of them at least wide receiver 2s, with Evans being a wide receiver 1. Evans being drafted as a wide receiver 14 in PPR, so more at his floor at 402. Godwin, once again, wide receiver 2, but being drafted as the wide receiver 19 in PPR at 411. Again, kind of towards his floor. And then, but maybe the most criminal of all, Johnny, AB, who was a wide receiver 2, is being drafted as the wide receiver 29 in the 7th round. I think the best point here is that all 3 are being drafted at more of their floor, and it seems likely that Brady loves them all and can hit them in all the ways they need to. And we should also love all of this for Brady, who is being drafted as the QB9 in ADP right now. If it's good for the gander, it's good for the geese, or whatever the saying is. I just love what's going on here, and I love the potential upside of all 3 of these guys. I've taken Evans. I've taken a lot of Brown. I haven't drafted as much Godwin, but that would change if, going into this weekend, I think Godwin's even a value as well where he's being drafted. So I don't know, Johnny. I was really excited to look at some of these deep numbers for the Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah, this will be a definite question will be thrown a lot during the regular season, especially because teams can land multiple, Tampa Bay wide receivers. I do think that we are in store for a big Tom Brady season. I think that you're absolutely right in talking about AB and his value. I think he's the best value of all of them. I am a little bit more on the Chris Godwin bandwagon over Mike Evans. It's just we've seen a decline in his target market share each of the last 3 seasons, which gives me a little bit more pause. But again, he's so dominant, and he's not like, again, he's never finished a season under 1,000 receiving yards. I don't expect that to be broken. I think that they're going to try to keep that streak alive as well, because football players, they know these records. They keep track of them, and it's something to strive for. So I definitely think, once again, there's going to be a plenty of volume to go around. It just, what week is gonna, what week is each wide receiver going to go off? That could get a little tricky. But again, we look and dive into the regular season matchups each and every single week on here, and we will help you out with those matchups, because those will reveal a lot.
Yep, I think what we're about to get revealed right now is in Chicago, which is our fourth question.
I do want, sorry, before we move on to the next one, just because it's relevant, Mr. Miyagi asking, for the teams that lost Irv Smith, we forgot to mention that in the news today, Irv Smith going down, out for the season. Where do you see OJ Howard? And Travis, real quick, I'll just say I would rather take a flyer if I'm an Irv Smith person. I would rather take a flyer on like a Mo Alley Cox or Anthony Ferkser.
Gerald Everett,
Gerald Everett, perfect example. I do like that one a lot, because I just think the volume is going to be there over, having to split time with Gronk and OJ Howard.
Yeah, we just talked about 162 targets for, these guys in the passing attack for Tampa Bay. And I don't think that you can bang the drum. There's too many mouths to feed when you talk about this. But when we have 3 clear wide receivers inside the top 24, there really probably isn't much left volume-wise for O.J. Howard, who's also going to be splitting time with your boy Rob Gronkowski, who Brady loves a lot as well. So just not a lot there. I love O.J. Howard, love the talent. I just don't see a breakout role in his future for this season. All right, Johnny, we got to talk about Justin Fields, because the more and more I watch this kid, the more I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm fanboying for a Chicago Bears quarterback, but here's where we are. Johnny, this is where we're at. Justin Fields, and we need to know when he's going to start and what effect it's going to have on the offense.
Yeah, so I am with you. I usually don't fanboy over rookie quarterbacks, Travis, but it is so hard not to with Justin Fields. I mean, one, he's super electric and fun to watch. It's a great story, right? But then you see what he's putting together in preseason. And I understand it is preseason. Teams aren't going full ham and scheming out defensive systems and things like that for each of these teams. They're just playing. But what he's really shown throughout these games, the progression, Travis, is absolute magical. And on his last preseason game in which he started, he was 30 for 49. You love that the pass attempts were way up there. And I really think it was a major part, because they really wanted to see what they had in Justin Fields. But you like seeing that the potential could get up this high, right? But check this out. 276 passing yards, 92 rushing yards, Travis. Talk about a Konami code. And then 3 touchdowns. He had 0 interceptions, and he had a 96.98 passer rating. I don't know if you saw one of those passing touchdowns, Travis, but it was absolutely gorgeous. He was, rushing to the right, dime throw, corner of the end zone. Guy was leaning out of bounds, toe tap, money. That's what it was. And it was such a beautiful throw. There's no way Andy Dalton's last throw in the preseason that he just keeps replaying, Travis, is a pick. Meanwhile, you got Justin Fields over here just tearing it up. So I am completely on the Justin Fields bandwagon. I think he's going to be a great fantasy quarterback this year. I think he has a tremendous upside. And so, a lot of people are asking the question, when do you think Justin Fields will come in? We have seen Matt Nagy not waver. Oh, Andy Dalton is the guy. And he's slowly started to walk that back over the last, week and a half, after he's seen Fields really explode over that time. And so I do think he's going to stick with Andy Dalton week 1 against the Rams, because that is a brutal defense. And I don't think he wants Fields to go out there in his first game against a defense like that. But then check this out. After that, Travis, you've got the Bengals, Cleveland, Lions, Raiders, and Packers. I do expect Cleveland's defense to be vastly improved, but the rest of those aren't majorly concerning to you as far as matchups go. I would bet that by week 2, Justin Fields is named the starter, and I cannot wait. I think it's going to be great. And just to touch on the pass catchers and what this does really quick on a secondary note, Travis, I think that this is great news for a guy like David Montgomery, who also, side note, Tyreek Cohen placed on the PUP list. So he is out at least 6 games minimum. So a lot of people had the concern of what about Tyreek Cohen and the pass catching. I'm not concerned with him. And then you look at Darnell Mooney. I think this opens up the ceiling for him because Fields will scramble, find him. He's, great at that. And then as far as, people will question Robbie or Allen Robinson, but the dude is one of the most solid wide receivers, most consistent wide receivers. He's going to get over 140 targets. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's proven that, and he's going to get over 1,000 yards receiving. So I think that this is a huge benefit across the board for all these Bears.
Yeah, I mean, David Montgomery's my bromance, so the Cohen news only helps.
So you
that.
can't even go against it.
Yeah, I cannot go against it. I can't go against Allen Robinson, who I've taken in a couple drafts recently as well, because I think Allen Robinson's just a lock for 160 targets or around that range, and this guy's just a stud, and he continues to do what he does. Yeah, I mean, this Bears offense becomes so much more exciting with Justin Fields, but I think that there's very good reason to think that all the weapons are good, even if Fields takes a little while. But I'm with you. I don't know why they wouldn't start Fields to start, but we've talked about the Rams being the first game, so maybe they want Andy Dalton to be the sacrificial lamb. Whatever it is, we are all begging for Fields to start in fantasy football, and we are all drafting him late in our drafts because of the.
I'm going to throw you out as the sacrificial lamb for our show, Travis.
Please do. Please do. All right. Our 5th and final burning question, Johnny, is coming up right now. But first, I'd like to ask everybody who's watching to like and subscribe if they can and help us out, help us grow the channel. If you're watching right now, thank you. Thank you so much. If you're listening on audio, thank you. Thank you so much. Please get over to the YouTube channel and hit subscribe. Help us to get to 2,000 subscribers before the start of the NFL season. We would love that, and we would love to continue to bring you all that content throughout the regular season. Johnny, we have to talk about Seattle's offense because we've been staunchly saying that the inconsistency, right, Johnny, has really burned us, both in Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and just the way that they will not let Russ cook consistently over the entire year. So, Johnny, my question is, what will Seattle's offense look like, and will it sustain that change all year long? Johnny, are you with me? Because I'll tell you in a second with the stats and with the reasons why I'm kind of turning around on the offense and thinking I actually might invest. Are you still trepid? Are you still being very trepidatious? Are you still being hesitant or cautious when approaching this Seattle offense?
I kind of am. I'm still buying into Chris Carson heavy. I do think my big thing is that we keep asking and keep wanting for Russ to start cooking, and we've seen some potential of that, but it goes against everything that Pete Carroll stands for. So I think it's just going to be in his office when they start to throw more, and he's just going to be like, I can't do it, Captain. I just can't do it. We got to go back to running it. What was that from Mrs. Doubtfire? He's bringing out the Mrs. Doubtfire. That's my issue. I do think there is a very good possibility because we have been asking for it for so long, and we've seen what his upside is when he can really get it going and get it cooking. But again, it has never wavered me off of DK. I think DK is the most solid guy in this offense as far as production goes. I think I'm still buying into Chris Carson, but I want you to try to give me one last persuasion before the draft weekend. I have a bunch of drafts this weekend, so if I'm going to buy in now, it's going to take you convincing me right now.
Yeah, so this one's tough because we want to try and capture some of the ceiling that's there. If we look at the new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, he's hired from the Rams coaching staff, very familiar with Seattle. So that should help in the transition because he's seen them so much. He's also seen that Ram defense a lot. So that should help the offense. I like that. The amount of flack that Seattle has gotten from not only the fans, but Russ himself in regards to the line play and the lack of propensity to throw the football consistently over the year. I think that will play into it here because they went and hired a guy who not only does what Russ wants in a high-powered offense to pass, but if you look at what the Rams have done, we talked about it, top 10 in rushing attempts 3 of the last 4 seasons. So they're going to get a great mix of running the ball, which is what Pete Carroll wants, and throwing the ball with high efficiency, which is what Russell Wilson is so good at. we got to look at last year's and team, the big three, Russ, DK, and Lockett, and the effect that the up and down offense had on the players. We look at Russ, whose worst QB finish in fantasy over the last 8 years is QB9. He had over 4,200 passing yards. It was this career, 40 passing touchdowns. That was a career high. So we look at a guy who's peaking in the right direction. He had 513 rushing yards last year, 83 rushing attempts. That's on par with his career average. He's been the most valuable QB in the NFL since 2019 per PFF WAR, which is wins above replacement. That was Russell Wilson. We love that. Over the last 2 seasons, his first half average, the first 8 games has been QB7, but his second half average has been QB17. So that's what we're talking about, the inconsistency in the offense. Last week through week 9, his lowest QB weekly finish was QB10, but since, after week 9, he only finished in the top 10 one single time. We look at the Rams and the Cardinals and the way they were able to play him tough. We look at the line play. We hope that's, and we hope the new offense is going to help, because we look at DK Metcalf. He finished as the wide receiver 5 in standard, 7 in PPR, but in weeks 1 through 9, 8 games, he was the wide receiver 2. And if we look at the weeks 1 through 9, he was the wide receiver, or 9, the rest of the season, he finished as the wide receiver 23 in those last 8 games. So big difference. His 5+ 100-yard games was 5th most in the NFL. And 20 targets. He was top 20 in targets and in just his second season, but top 5 in red zone targets with 39. So there's huge upside for DK. There's obviously huge upside for Lockett. 3 straight seasons finishing as the wide receiver 17 or better in PPR. He finished as the wide receiver 8 in PPR last year. Back-to-back seasons with over 1,000 yards, 28 touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. We look at 130 targets last year, but he was only a wide receiver 2 or better, Johnny, on 39% of his games in the last 2 years. Wide receiver 2 or better in only 31% of his games last year. Not a great stat to have. So we look at the absolute ceiling that this offense can have and the absolute floor that this offense can have and what it does for these players. And I'll tell you what, we got to look at what we're hearing out of camp around this offense. We've heard DK say that this is a more advanced offense. It's not just a chuck it, go deep offense that it was last year. I looked at this article from Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times, and it was talking about what Shane Waldron is bringing to the Rams. This is his quote. But through the first 5 padless days of camp, a few themes have emerged. Specifically, players say that the offense is emphasizing a quicker pace, both in terms of taking less time between snaps, should help with the offensive line. And then the quote continues, but also in increasing the number of types of plays that get the ball out of Wilson's hands more quickly. So a more plethora of plays that can get him at the ball out of his hands. Also, it's quick. Tight end Gerald Everett, who came over, who spent the last 4 years with the Rams, said the offense isn't a complete makeover and that there are still elements of what Seattle ran previously. The quote is, I would have to say 50-50, honestly, Everett said Monday. There are some similarities to the Rams, but you look around the league, every offense is running something of the same. Given the ceiling of these players, Johnny, and the way the offense is being talked about players and these beat writers, I can't help but be excited, because it seems like what they want to do is take what worked well for the Seattle Seahawks last year, implement that with what is going to work well for helping Russell Wilson not get sacked as much, and helping to really target these big, very successful wide receivers. I just don't see how you have this much talent for a peaking Russell Wilson and not have more consistency for a guy who has actually been, consistent year end, but hasn't had, had a little bit of volatility. I think that this could even out in a big way. And the discount you're getting on some of these guys, including Lockett and Russ Wilson, is something to kind of look at.
I mean, I will say that Russell Wilson is being heavily discounted, which is nice. It doesn't bother me as much taking him because of where he's going for the upside. Risk versus reward there is somewhat worth it. And then if he does end up cooling off, you just have to be under the understanding, if you have him, that you might have to play someone with a less, big name if he starts to fall off that cliff or starts to slump. You might have to have that, battle with yourself if you're able to. There is that night. The one thing I will say that I'm still not going to waver on, I still can't come around and get myself to come around to, is the Tyler Lockett debate. I just think he's too inconsistent for me to take, especially, I understand where he finished at the end of the year, but this isn't a, unless you're in best ball, I don't care how, it is nice to look at those stats. But it's also, we have to remind ourselves it's a weekly game. And, when he is not a wide 39% of the time, that means 40 or 61%, if I could do quick math in my head, 61% of the time, he's way worse than a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver, top 30 wide receiver. So I don't like that from that perspective. Also, the other side, the other thing that hinders me on Tyler Lockett is you brought up Everett. I think Everett's going to garner a lot more targets than people think. I think they will utilize him, and we have seen Russell Wilson use a good tight end before. So I do think that benefit, or that loses a little tarnish for Tyler Lockett that people aren't talking about. But I do like, once again, this makes me even more excited for DK, because imagine if they start using him more in slants. Like, he's going to be unguardable. And you're talking about quickly getting the ball out by Russell to those quick slants. I do think that this, breaks the ceiling a little bit more open for a guy like DK. So I'm really excited for DK this year.
All right, well, those are our 5 biggest questions, Whisper Nation. We want to know what your biggest questions are, so make sure you're hitting us up on all social media platforms and asking us what your biggest questions are heading into week 1. We will try to solve them for you. And don't forget, the regular season schedule is set to start next week, which means pretty much daily fantasy football content. But the best way to make sure you catch it all is by subscribing over on the YouTube channel, turning your notifications on, and making sure you are part of Whisper Nation. Johnny, we got a behind the scenes here, so we'll just kind of break for a little bit and get the behind the scenes going. And we're going to be doing some giveaways for our Patreon channel, which is another opportunity to say that get over to patreon.com, search the Fantasy Whispers. We're doing sports card giveaways today. We're also doing a jersey giveaway, T.Y. Hilton jersey, right, Johnny?
Yeah.
So any last words for the main show here?
I just want to reiterate what our regular season schedule is going to be for Whisper Nation, so they know. We will not be live on next Monday, on Labor Day. That day we will be taking off, but we will have a show on Friday. And then as we get into the regular season, it will be a Monday night football show where you can come hang out, ask us some questions. We'll be talking fantasy, have some people on from the industry. It'll be fun. Tuesday will be a waiver wire show. And then Wednesday, we will be previewing the Thursday night. That will be a live stream as well. We'll be previewing that Thursday night matchup. And then we will have our matchup releases on Thursday and Friday. We will also go live on Friday for the news and nuggets and going through all that, getting you prepared for the weekend. And then it all ends and, well, certainly begins, I guess, for a lot of people on that Sunday morning live stream where we will help you out with those weekly tough lineup decisions. So that's so make sure.
And again, if all that sounds like so much, it is, because we're doing daily fantasy football content to get you ready for each stage of the week that happens in fantasy football, especially in redraft. So make sure you like and subscribe over on YouTube and hit those notifications, because that's the best way to keep in contact with all of it.
Mr. Miyagi saying his biggest question is tomorrow's lottery numbers. Unfortunately, I wish we could tell you that. That would be... Yeah.
If we could tell you that, I probably wouldn't be doing fantasy football predictions either. We'd be doing lottery number predictions.
Yeah, probably. This week, yeah.
All right, we'll catch you in a little bit, Whisper Nation. And we're back.
We did it.
Behind the scenes. Obviously, we are getting ready to give you... What are we giving away first, Johnny?
So first, we'll draw the name for whoever is going to get the card pack.
Okay.
And then we will
figure out who's in their card pack, correct?
Should we do it that way? Or we could... Yeah, and then we could do the jersey giveaway last, or do we want to?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
let's do the card pack giveaway exclusively. And Johnny, just a reminder is how we're doing it. Is there a difference in breakdown with who is involved in which drawing, or is it everybody that's subscribed on Patreon, and what tier is that? And just let the people know.
Yeah, so anybody who is involved or donates to our Patreon, either $5 or $10 a month, gets automatically entered into the drawing for the card giveaway each and every single month that we do at the end of the month. And then, or on the first, I should say, we do the drawing on the first of the month. And so, yeah, only $5 or 10 envelopes with a bunch of cards in each one, and so we'll do that. Oh, and then I got things falling over now. Look at that. When you got
We're doing it live.
cards, we're doing it live. So yeah,
Whisper Nation, again, if you want to be involved in one of these giveaways, just get over to Patreon. $5 or $10 level will get you. 10 will give you a little bit extra chance to get in there, but the $5 level also, can get you in as well. So head on over to Patreon.com, search the Fantasy Whispers today. Johnny, let's spin the wheel to see who is winning this this card pack.
Here we go.
If it's Chris, which is the name I read when I said,
I know that would be pretty. Yeah,
rigged here.
They're gonna be like, number one fan,
Jacob Bley. Ball don't lie.
Ball don't lie.
And the wheel didn't lie for our number one fan here.
Right.
He is the winner.
So
of our pack here. So let's try and get this.
We're gonna put these numbers in real quick, and then this is live. This is how you know it's live.
As Johnny does that, I want to answer Jake Kirchevel's question here. Do I trade for Henderson or Damian Harris? I think you trade for Harris if you have the opportunity above those two, because Harris's role is solidified. We talked about if Cam Newton's not there, then the touchdowns aren't vultured as much. And I just think Harris is going to be part of an offense where we know what his role is. I love Henderson too, and I think the upside is there, but the floor is definitely much lower than a Damian Harris.
All right, we are picking for whatever envelope. So got 10 envelopes here. And Jacob Bley, let's see what he gets.
Let's do it. Spin the wheel.
We'll open it. Then we'll open it right here.
We'll
do the drawing for the jersey giveaway.
Number 6.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
boom! Look at that confetti, dude, just popping off right now.
Popping off. Everything's just popping off right now.
Another reminder, I'm going to drop the link in here as well, but another reminder that if you want in on this action, if you want to win these sports cards, and there's good cards in there, Johnny, like we're not just blowing smoke right now. There's some great cards in these packs.
This first one's already, and the second one. We got a good one. All right,
go ahead. Let them know. But yeah,
sorry,
if you guys want involved, I'm going to drop the link to the Patreon and make sure you can get over there and subscribe if you guys are feeling it upon yourself to support the brand and get involved in some of these giveaways.
Appreciate you. Sorry, Travis. I'm really excited about these cards.
You should. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited for Jacob here.
So first one here, we got a TJ Hawkinson rookie card.
Oof,
dude. I know, right?
Hey, Hawk is my bromance this year. If you guys don't know, I'm big on some Hawk. Johnny hates him, but I love him.
You won't. Second card here. We got Calvin Ridley, rookie card. A lot of people are high on Calvin Ridley. So that's a pretty good one. Ooh, this one is we got a Drew Lock rookie card. We'll see if he comes back and ends up being the starter. And then the last one here, we got a Devin Singletary rookie, red, white, and blue. So there you go. There you have it. Jacob Bley, way to go, man. So one more time, Devin Singletary rookie. We got a Drew Lock rookie. We have a Calvin Ridley score rookie.
Love that.
And then a TJ Hawkinson.
TJ Hawkinson and Ridley, man, that's a great pack right there. So congratulations to Jacob Bley, the winner of this month's sports card giveaway. Again, we posted that Patreon link in there. If you guys want to support the channel and the brand, you are going to get entered into this sports card giveaway. But also, Johnny, what we're about to do now, which is the jersey giveaway. And what jersey are we giving away today? I believe it's T.Y. Hilton, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So, and so there's significance to this T.Y. Hilton jersey here. So it is a signed T.Y. Hilton. The significance of this jersey, Travis, is that if this were an NFT, it would go wild right now. It is the second jersey that we ever purchased for our show to put in the wall when we first started. So it has very significant ties to our channel. And that's why we thought it was important. It would be fun to start off the jersey giveaway with that. And our jerseys will get significantly better as the season continues on. But we thought it'd be fun to start the jersey giveaway with these, or with this jersey, I should say, because of its significance to us. So, Travis, we got our names in here. And again, this is for anyone who is in the $10 tier for our Patreon. You get entered in this. So you can win a signed jersey, Travis, for $10. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, that's exactly what's going to happen here. Is somebody for this month won a jersey for $10, and it's a T.Y. Hilton jersey. And yeah, say what you want about Hilton's the last couple of years, but this is again the best player per Andrew Luck that he's ever played with. So yeah, let's take a look at who's going to win here.
let's go. Let's find out. All right, spin that wheel. You know what to do. You won't. And the winner of the T.Y. Hilton jersey is Jon Durst.
Jonathan Durst, congratulations. T.Y. Hilton is coming your way. We will make sure we get that out to you. Thank you to everyone over on patreon.com who supported. We will continue to do these monthly drawings, and we will continue to get you all sorts of bonus content, including what we love to do, which is the Face Off Friday. That's an exclusive piece for our Patreon. And during the regular season, we're just going to help you with some of the biggest lineup questions. And I don't know if we can announce this yet, but I'm just going to do it. Underdog Fantasy, linking up with Underdog Fantasy. So for some of your pick'em and rival and other ways you can make money on Underdog Fantasy, you can do it through us. So we'll get that out to you guys as soon as we can. Mr. Miyagi had a personal question here. I just found you guys this year from the YouTube algorithm. When did you start the show, and how do you know each other? Johnny, you want to take the first part of this question?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to the YouTube algorithm for bringing us Mr. Miyagi, because he has been awesome.
A legend.
And legend.
Wax on, wax off.
We appreciate you. Yeah, he came in here with Stormtrooper as his original name. And then, yeah, which was pretty sweet. I like that one as well as a Star Wars fan. But yeah, so we'll get to this second part of this question. So we know each other because we went to college together, although we didn't have any classes. We had friends of friends, and then mutual friends, I should say. And we met through our league at our draft. It was actually the first time that I ever met Travis. Was at our league draft, actually at B-Dubs. Or no, it was California, at the California draft. That's what it was.
Yeah, so I mean we met through this fantasy football league that we're actually drafting in this weekend, the Toltem, the only league that matters, our league of record. And yeah, I mean, when did we start the show? It's been 4 years now. I believe. You know, you can look all the way back, although I would not suggest it to listen to our first episode.
I wouldn't either.
But yeah, we've been doing this. We look, that league of record we talked about so much during the off season. We loved it so much that we realized we had a passion for just talking about fantasy sports and helping people with their lineups and helping get you guys that championship. And so that became our dedication, and we have grinded and we are continuing to grind, and we want to do this every day, you know, pretty much for the rest of our lives as our passion to, you know, make money off of this, but also be able to bring a community together and inspire people that they belong within the community of Whisper Nation and help them win in fantasy football and help them enjoy fantasy football. Yeah, that's really a big part. And really enjoy it, you know, most of all, live draft and get with your buddies and understand how this game is so special. So cheers to Mr. Miyagi. Cheers to the rest of you here watching on YouTube, and cheers to everyone supporting on Patreon. Don't forget, if you got a draft this weekend, to get our draft kit, subscribe over on YouTube, and of course, help us out on Patreon. All of these things help you be a better fantasy football player and help us be better fantasy football analysts and bring you more and more information the best way we can.
As well as Mr. Miyagi doing he said he had subbed, and he told his league to sub as well. You want to become a better fantasy player, you elevate the game of everyone in your league, and that's how you become a better fantasy player.
Yeah, fair point.
Appreciate you so much, Mr. Miyagi, for chiming in there, and that's all we got. That's all we got today, folks.
For Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travie. We are the Fantasy Whispers. We're out. Peace.
Appreciate you. Have a great weekend, Whisper Nation.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw and you want to learn how to dominate your own draft and win your own league, head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your copy of the Fantasy Whispers Draft Kit today, or click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.